Following the second FEC meeting that the president held yesterday with ministers and other key stakeholders, they have projected, or actually looking at the budget for 2024 as estimated at 26 trillion naira, which they are hoping to hand over to the National Assembly before the end of December. Good morning and welcome to the Dailies on Echo Television International. We'll be taking you down some of the papers that are trending this morning and the stories in it as well. I have Rachel Tenzer with me this morning. Good morning, Rachel.
Morning, Sally.
How are you doing?
I'm fine. How about you?
I'm great. Thank you so much. To our viewers, please do remember you can follow us live on Facebook and on YouTube. Drop any of the story that is of interest to you, your comment and also recommendation on how Nigeria can be better. I am Sele Laishadasho. Let's go through the papers, starting with the leadership newspaper. Appeal Court sacks Adamawa Senator Elisha Abo. You can find detail of that story on page 8. Protesting electricity workers throw Kanu into darkness. More of that story also can be found on page 6. And on what's trending, we have ICPC EFCC chairman from same zone. Illegal. You can find more of that story inside the paper on page 2. NDLEA seizes $4.9 million, 57 million CFA on Abuja Lokoja Road. More of all these two stories can be found on page 2. Niger ban, rising crude price raises cost of cooking gas. You can find detail of that story on the front page and continue on page 7. Also, we have Olukoyede, eminently qualified as EFCC chairman. This is coming from Falana. The big story on the front page of the leadership said, despite 7 trillion naira investment, poor power supply lingers. And we have some of the things that we'll be looking into, the reason why we're having the poor supply and things that have been affecting. Where we're having the federal government has spent 7 trillion naira as direct intervention in the power sector. And then we're having that Nigeria's national grid has experienced a total of 223 collapses since 2010. There have been reports of 108 power transmission towers being destroyed. I take that there have been reports of 108 power transmission towers being destroyed by vandals between January 2022 and September 2023. Also, experts estimate that Nigeria must invest about $100 million in the power sector over the next 2 decades. The cost of power outage in Nigeria is estimated at around $29 million. And then a World Bank sponsored report in 2021 showed that 85 million Nigerians are not connected to the grid. So that showed that only 115 million Nigerians are connected to the grid. So you can find more detail of all of this on page 4. Federal government proposes 26 trillion naira for 2024 budget. Inflation rises to 26.72% on the higher food prices, where initially it was 25.8% in September. Now we've seen even before the end of October, it has increased to 26.72%. And that is all as a result of the prices of food. So you can do well to find more detail of that story on page 15. And on the issue of Israel-Palestine war, death toll hit 4,100. More detail of that international story can be found on page 6. UN agency robbing Nigeria of donor funds. You want to know what that story entails? Look at that story on page 7. And that's all on the leadership newspaper.
On Blueprint newspaper, fake news, disinformation threatening elections in Nigeria. Statement coming from INEC. 3 pensioners slump waiting for screening. This happened in Osun State. We have 120 PWDs to get 120 from JAMB and then UBEC. The big story on the paper, federal government projects 26 trillion naira 2024 budget and then 8 trillion naira for debt servicing. We have earmarked 1.3 trillion naira for statutory transfers, 10.26 trillion naira non-recurrent expenditure, more 7.78 trillion naira for personnel pension cost. Inflation rises to 26.72% in September. Nigeria to face high debt burden in 2024, a report coming from IMF. You can find details on page 20. FEC adopts 30 days implementation of Memorandum of Understanding with Labour. This is on the strike. You can find details on page 6. AFCC arrests suspect for 2 billion naira foreign exchange fraud in Lagos State. We have how IPOP killed my friend for refusing to join group. And at the downside of the paper, Ababio behind my ordeal, sacked Adamawa Senator Abu cries out. You can find details inside the paper, and that's all the news on Blueprint newspaper.
On Daily Sun newspaper, still on the issue of strike, federal government okays 30-day implementation of Memorandum of Understanding with Labour. You can find more of that on page 6, where they have implemented at about 2.1%, or 2.1% of course of that money, or 2.1 trillion naira will be going to actually see how they can meet up some of the demand being made by the organized labor. The big story on the Daily Sun newspaper, reps under fire over 130 million naira SUV. With the rider, Nigerians, various federal lawmakers are getting expensive vehicles at time of economic hardship. Initially, we were having the Senate, and right now it has gone down to the House of Reps, looking at the money they are using. You can look up that story on page 6 of the Daily Sun newspaper. We are heading for devastating food crisis. This is coming from OB, with the writer saying dry season farming or shoe equity Ondo unbeat on bumper harvest. You can find more of that on page 28, and that is regarding the World Food Day of yesterday. Nigerians groan as inflation rate hits 26.72%, 9 consecutively rise in 2023. And on impeachment, court to hear Akeredolu Ayediwa application October 30th. You can find more of that on page 26. Coming from the PDP, Wike Board of Trustee Chairman clash over National Secretary position. Tinubu must address structural imbalance. This is coming from Ashimolowo, where the writer advocates focus on SMEs by the federal government. And on the 2024 appropriation, federal government project 26 trillion naira. Pegs crude oil benchmark at $73.96. More of that can be found on page 6. We have a picture story still coming from Globalcom. You can do well to grab the paper and read more detail of that story.
On Nigerian Tribune, Nigeria's inflation rate rises to 26.72% as food prices soar. Experts blame increasing dollarization of economy demands pressure in forex market. Federal government projects 26 trillion naira for 2024 budget. Pegs crude oil at $73.96 per barrel. Exchange rate of 700 naira to a dollar. OK's $80 million for Ekiti Knowledge Zone project. Buildings on drainage channels. Lagos government rules out compensation for owners. You can find details on page 29. The big story on the paper, resume or resign under PDP youth tells Akeredolu. Give him 72-hour ultimatum, vow to sustain protest. Court to hear Akeredolu Aiyedatiwa's application October 30. You can find more details on page 15. NIPO's staffers shut down head office in protest against new CEO. Kogi West Elders Forum endorsed Abejide as consensus governorship candidate. Why AFCC ICPC chairman can't come from same zone, a statement coming from Falana. Federal government begins destruction of $1.2 million worth of pangolin scales. You can find details on page 5. Still on Nigerian Tribune, Akpabio instigated my sack, Senator Abu alleges, as he loses Senate seat to PDP's Amos Yohana alleges 4 senators to be sacked for not backing Akpabio's Senate presidency bid. Senate president has no hand in his predicament. A statement coming from an aide. You can find details on page 16, and that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
And on this day newspaper, higher energy, food, commodity prices drive inflation to 26.72%. Severe in Kogi, Rivers, Lagos and others. Rwani says bad roads contributing to higher food prices. I think, Rachel, beyond that, I mean, yesterday we were looking at some of the things we're hoping that the FEC will look into, looking, knowing the fact that this is the second meeting the president will be holding after the first one he had in August with the ministers, where he told them they need to do the right thing. And looking at that, I remember earlier or mid this year, we were looking at some of the implications of removing the first subsidy, and where we had one in Pacific saying that we will not feel the effect of all of this policy. Hopefully by 2024, Nigeria will begin to see things going well. By then, we are beginning to adjust with all of that is happening. But then, Richard, looking at the inflation rate, I mean, it was 25. Right now we're seeing that it has increased to about 26.72%, and all that is boiled down to the issue of the prices of commodity services, especially food prices. And here we're seeing that the road is actually the reason. I feel beyond the road, Rachel, with inflation of price, or with the removal of first subsidy rather, definitely farmers are having difficulty transporting this food from the farms down to also. And then with the fact that we're seeing that Obi is also complaining with the fact that people are expecting to see a bumper harvest, but I don't think that is the case this year, because it looks as if a lot of people did not record as will I say the harvest they were expecting with not what they actually seen. Yesterday, while we're looking at the World Food Day, a number of farmers have actually expressed their grievances and displeasure on the fact that it's either we're having kidnappers or bandits actually stopping them from going to their farmlands, or wheat and insect have actually done a lot of havoc. We saw what happened to ginger farmers in Kaduna. Definitely, you know that a lot of things will actually increase in prices. When we're complaining that the borders have been open, and we're seeing that here there's so much pressure on our naira, and that is why the loan that the government is even looking for to actually, budget for 2024 is actually going to be looking for that loan in dollars. So quite a number of reasons why we can see that inflation is going high. And if you remember, Richard, I said I do not know which the government is concentrating on more, whether is it the inflation rate, our exchange rate, or our interest rate, because these are three major factors that we cannot do away with when we are looking at the terms and conditions that apply when you want to look at the reason why an economy is moving or forward or going backward. So looking at this, you begin to ask, what will the inflation rate be by December? Let's not even go to 2024. By December or by the end of October, what will our inflation rate be? But I just hope that with this budget, knowing the fact that we are spending quite a number to actually pay for our debt, a lot of things will work out as it should be. So I want to hear, what do you feel about this inflation rate, Rachel, from 25 to 26?
I don't feel, my feelings haven't changed concerning the inflation rate, because it's going to be there. It's going to keep increasing. We've told Nigerians to keep raising themselves up concerning this inflation. However, the difference between economies that are doing better is just how they manage inflation, because even world big economies are suffering with inflation. However, it's how they manage it, how they keep it from growing rapidly, and how it doesn't grow month on month, and which is what we're having in Nigeria. And that is why it's felt this much. Looking at a devalued currency on weekly basis, we can't say that the dollar isn't gaining more strength against the naira and all of that. And it's not more than what we have been saying concerning this. It's just for Nigeria to just prepare your mind that this inflation rate is going to keep increasing. There's nothing that is going to change about it so far. And even come 2024, I'm yet to see policies that is going to curb inflation. All the policies that are out there are still not inflation control friendly. Let me put it like that. Nothing is out there. We are now opening our borders to more importation. We are still floating our currency. It's still dropping at whatever level it is. We have fuel subsidy out. So there's no policy yet out there that is warranting that inflation is going to slow down. It doesn't look that way anyway. So until we start seeing those kind of policies that perhaps will slow down inflation, then maybe we can hope that inflation will probably maybe take
stable.
Exactly, be stable. But as it is now, everything that the government is doing looks like it's just going to keep making this inflation go high with speed, Sally.
I'm really concerned because, it would have been better if this would be the price and it would be stable for a period of time for Nigerians to be able to adjust to things. And it's quite sad when just yesterday we were looking at World Food Day. Today we are looking at International Day for Eradication of Poverty. And if you take a look at the people that are moving to the poverty line, you will agree with me, Rachel, that a lot of work needs to be done by the federal government, the state government, and the local government as well. Of course, local government will tell you there's little or nothing they can do because they depend so much on whatever quota the state government gives them. But then looking at the inflation rate and then with the things that are going, how much our food prices right now, it actually keeps going high and high and high. And when we are looking at eradication of poverty, with the team saying decent work and social protection, how many people have been protected? We've seen where small and medium enterprises keep shutting down because the environment is not favorable. How much is a liter of fuel right now? 700 naira. How many people, even people who are in the middle class, could actually, back then you could actually say, okay, you can fuel your car to go to work. But right now, even the minimum wage that labor is pushing for is that same money you use to fuel your car. That is if you want to use your private car. A lot of people have parked their car, so that is to even give you an eye opener of what is even happening in the market when you go to actually price food prices. So we just hope that the government have something to actually help Nigerians. They are still waiting for the palliative that are supposed to come in, the grains that they promised them. A lot of states, a lot of people are yet to even have access to it. So we hope the federal government actually have all of this in mind so that they could help Nigerians to be able to live above all of this thing that is happening to them presently.
I mean, Sarah, when it comes to poverty in a country, it's just two ways to deal with poverty in a country. One is employment, and then two is creating a business friendly environment. And we don't have any of that yet in Nigeria. We don't have business friendly environment. We don't have an atmosphere that allows businesses to thrive, because when small scale businesses thrive, medium businesses thrive, these mini businesses, these small scale businesses, these medium scale businesses begin to account for employment, be it 2, 5, 10, 20, 100, some 1,000, regardless, it's still a medium scale business, or it can still be mega because you grow from one level to another. If these businesses are able to thrive, then they begin to aid employment in the country. And not only will we be having entrepreneurs springing up, business people springing up and all, then eventually we will start having a GDP per capita increasing, all of this together. Or when we are having industrialization taking its peak as it should be, starting from the solid minerals, we are having full control of our solid minerals. Then we are having industries that are able to process these solid minerals. We have industries that we're not only into producing raw materials, we're not taking them out, but we're finishing it here. When we have all of these things in place, then that is when we can start seeing poverty rate going down in Nigeria. But Sele, as long as we keep borrowing and keep moving on the fiscal deficit, as long as programs that have been put in place to elevate poverty, to give us some sort of balance of trade, to make sure that we are not dependent when it comes to our economy, are not functioning well, then you know that we still have a long way to go. That even if things start flowing well and we're not seeing them yet, we're not seeing the government doing that for now, we're not seeing that yet. And even when they eventually start to do the needful, it's going to take a long period of time. And that is why it's important for them to start doing it now. Because the longer you take, the more we are left behind when it comes to development, be it in economy, be it in technology advancement, be it in whatever field of growth, we are left behind. So it's now that the government of Nigeria needs to start doing the work. It is now that we need to wake up and do what we're expected to do. And I keep saying it, they know what to do. Our government knows exactly what to do. They have the resources. They know how long it's going to take. You have all the resources, all the data, all the information, everything at your disposal. Is left for you to do the work. And this is where I think we've been having leadership that have been failing us. Nobody is yet ready to do the work. There have been promises of doing the work, but nobody has done the work yet. If we'll be sincere concerning leadership in Nigeria, because we know what the work that needs to be done. It's not magic. We're not just going to wake up and then Nigeria is a world power when it comes to economy. No, it's just tiny, tiny, consistent step, deliberate step, thoughtful, intelligent decisions and policies implemented the way they are supposed to be that will take us to that level. So I'm just waiting to see that government that will take us to that level.
Rachel, because while you were talking, an idea came, oh, not really an idea, but rather some of the things that are actually resulting. There was a time on the paper where we saw that the reason why Nigeria economy is still standing the way it is because of some wealthy individuals, businesses that are thriving. So that is to say, once we take these individual businesses out of the nation, that is to say that Nigeria is actually going down because a lot of business are being owned by private individuals and not by the government. So something needs to be done. If we want the economy to thrive, we need to do something to make sure that we still have these private individuals doing well, so they'll be able to make an employment environment for other people who are actually out of jobs. So we hope that the government will look into that dry farming irrigation so we can have food and then our inflation will actually be stable. Let's look at other stories still on this day where we have from the international world. Biden, US powerful enough to handle Ukraine-Israel war, maintain global defense commitment. More detail can be found on page 9. FEC OK started its implementation of Memorandum of Understanding with Labour with detail found on page 8. Akitola Williams provided professional shade to over 60,000 charter accountants, says ICANN president. You can find more of that on page 9. FEC passes the MTEF project 26.01 trillion naira budget for 2024. With the rider benchmark crude oil price at $73.96 per barrel, project 1.7 million barrel per day, pegs dollar at 700 naira. Justify the fresh $1.5 billion World Bank loan, direct continuation of inherited 12,000 kilometers of roads and 24 bridges. Says meeting will no longer hold weekly, so you can read up more of that story inside the paper. Briefing the meeting and outcome of FEC meeting. That is a picture where we are seeing some of the briefing, the media on the outcome of the FEC meeting. You can do well to grab this day and read any other story that is of interest to you.
On the Nation newspaper, Akpabio SAG-ABO clash over appeal court verdict. Food fuel price push inflation to 26.72%. Phenomenon global. This is coming from IMF. Ogun clear to fix toll Abeokuta Ota Road. This is coming from Umahi, and we have Kogi West elders endorse ADC candidate Abejide. You can find details on page 2. 2 Ocean pensioners slumped during verification in Oshobo. You can find details on page 27. Aiyedatiwa loses bid to stale impeachment. Court faces October 30 for suit. I'm in charge, Akeredolu tells protesting PDP chieftains. You can start with the details on the front page and continue on page 5. Federal government proposes 26 trillion naira appropriation for next year. Lawmakers to get supplementary budget. FEC endorses $1.5 billion World Bank loan, $80 million for Ekiti Knowledge Zone. You can find details on page 4. And at the downside of the paper, Empower beneficiaries to get pay backlog from next month. Find details on page 6, and that's all the news on the Nation newspaper.
On the Punch newspaper, federal government gets $1.5 billion fresh World Bank African Development Loan December, coming from Edu. Subsidy removal, Naira 4 push the food inflation to 30.64%. This is coming from the Punch paper. And on the Israeli-Hamas, Putin demands ceasefire, Cardinal offers sell for hostages. You can find more of that on page 27. The big story for the Punch is on 2024 budget. Federal government plan 26 trillion naira budget. Debt servicing to go up 8.25 trillion naira. With the right of flowing that say personnel, debt servicing cost to go up 62% of the 26 trillion naira. Government plans 700 naira per dollar. Federal government okays 2024-2026 MTEF. Tinubu to present sign budget before December 31st. We have a picture story here where we can see 20 Osun pensioners suffer exhaustion amid rowdy verification, and I just hope that the government come up with a better plan on how pensioners can actually go for screening to get their money. We've seen that about two slump down, and then about 20 of them suffer from exhaustion, and it's really really not something we should see. It took my mind to the call we've been having about, I think it's a caller that's always talking about a pension for our policemen, the fact that the government needs to look into the welfare of our former security operative. And now looking at these pensioners, could you imagine, it could be my mother, it could be my father, it could be any of our relatives. So I'm just asking, and we're pleading on the government to look into the plight of these people. These are old men who actually serve at one point or the other. So why make them go through so much hardship to the point of them slumming down? You could see the way they are sitting, so hopeless. It seems as if their entire life depends on what the governors or the government will actually do to them. So we're calling on the government to please, if there is a way, Rachel, I'm looking forward to a time that an old man or an old woman don't have to queue up in anywhere for screening. Why don't we have all of their biodatas online? They just go there, do all that they need to do, and you pay them their money. But then we just like things to be done the hard way. Is either out of maybe 500,000 that they are being given, eventually you ask for 100,000 naira just so you can give them all that you needed, or sometimes their file even get missing, or sometimes red is being written on the file to declare them dead while they are still alive. A lot of reason can actually cause all of this. So we are calling on the government as the watchdog of the society to do the right thing. Give these people what rightly belongs to them, because it could happen to anybody. You never can tell the way the world goes round. What goes up definitely come down. So we're just calling on the government to look into all of this. And this is just in Osun State. We cannot tell what is happening in other parts of the country. So I hope that the governor of Osun State will take this seriously, follow it, and make sure that all these pensioners are being given what rightly belongs to them.
The more I see this, the more I see how unintelligent whoever is the person or the director in charge of this pension board office precisely in Osun State. You're dealing with senior citizens, you are dealing with elderly people, and you have no idea how to structure this verification in a way that they won't be exhausted, and in a way that nobody will have to slump and die. Why are you not putting them in badges? And why are you not providing shelters for them to sit down? Why are they sitting down on the chair? How much will it cost you to rent the people to sit down and wait for their turns? If it is a 3-day exercise, if it is a 1-week exercise, whatever it is, what intelligence are you not supposed to put in to make sure that these people are not going through this? Because you know what, trust me, it is a matter of time. You might be sitting down in your office, you'll be out of that office within a short period of time, and you will be on this queue. If you don't correct this thing, you will be on that queue, because it is a matter of time. Because if you are reach the position of a director, you barely have 10 to 15 years in service. That is, if you rose to that rank really quickly, and then you are sitting down and you're not thinking about the little ways to correct the system, even if if we are still very analog and in our verification process, then why are you not thinking as an intelligent person who is deserving of such a position in the first place to give these people some sort of comfort in the best possible way you can? And this is where I am not a little bit emotional about this, Sele, because this is very avoidable on any level. Is very avoidable. There's no need for people to go through this. Even youth, if youths are queuing up for long hours, be it for NYC, be it for whatever empowerment program, is understood, because it's expected that we have that kind of energy to stay and wait for a verification. But you can't treat elderly and senior citizens in such a manner. So I'm just looking forward to where even in the littlest thing we do in Nigeria, Sele, we will come out like intelligent people who know what they're doing and want to correct the system regardless of how little the effort is. And I'm not seeing this playing out here, and I just hope that we start having or seeing better treatment, better verification process than what is being recorded on the papers.
Because just like you said, it actually is a story that can get you emotional, because it's not the first time we're having such stories making it to the paper. And I hope that, just like we said, the director, the relevant authority should please look into this. Make them in batches, let them go one after another. See, Richard, it's not even, to me, you said as youth, we even have the strength. It's not even an excuse. I know what you go through, for example, in the university when you have to go for the general studies, clear for GT, for the GST. You know how much the number of students when you go to actually for either the class or even the exam, and then go down to when you had to get your PVC. I was a victim. There was the time I slumped down because I was trying, because of how jam-packed the entire place is. So this calls for the relevant authorities to look into all of this thing, not to even talk about our senior servants. I mean, these are senior citizens, you should treat them well. So we hope that the agency and the right authorities will do the right thing. Let's quickly round up on the punch before we get to open the phone lines and get a break. On palliative, Nigerians condemn poor ration, lambast governors. You can find more of that on page 2. Third mainland bridge now a death trap, motorists lament. You can find more of that on page 4 and 5. And we have Apabio behind my removal from Senate, Abu alleges. You can find more of that story on page 8. And that's all on the Punch newspaper. Please, let's take this break so we can let you through the story, looking at the budget the government is actually giving for 2024. We're looking at what happened to pensioners, looking at the loan we are hoping to also get to help us to be able to budget whatever we need for 2024. Many other stories on the front page of the paper. So when we come back, we'll open the phone lines and hear what you have to say about this. Please stay tuned with us.
Make your everyday informative, make your everyday count. Know your world, daily affairs, national and international, with authentic news events as they unfold on Global News and Zuma Nigeria, Monday to Friday at 1 p.m.
Thank you for staying tuned. It's still the Dailies, and before we went on break, we're seeing some of the stories that are trending on the paper. We've seen the proposed budget for 2024, which has amounted to about 26.01 trillion naira. Also, we're seeing that Ondo youth are saying that it's either the governor show up in 72 hours or he resign as being the governor of the state. Also, we're having the issue of a lot of people are rejecting the ration that the governors are giving them as being very poor, as we're looking at how we can eradicate poverty, and also looking at how food is. Inflation is about 26 points, so you could tell that quite a number of things actually need attention. So the number is displayed on your screen at this moment. Do well to call us. We would love to hear what you have to say about any of the story. Do remember to turn down the volume of your TV set. Summarize your point in a minute so other people can also get the room to actually air their views. I still have Rachel Tenzi with me. Thank you so much,
You're
Rachel.
welcome, sir.
All right, let's take a look at the New Telegraph newspaper.
On New Telegraph revenue drive, federal government agencies receive 323.67 billion naira collection fee. No respite for economy consumers as inflation soared to 26.72% in September, a report from NBS. The big story on the paper, federal government to present 26.01 trillion naira 2024 appropriation bill to the National Assembly as FEC approves MTEF benchmarks crude price at $73.96, PEX dollar at 700 naira, projects 1.7 million barrel per day, justifies fresh $1.5 billion World Bank loan, to raise funds for completion of 18,000. We have a call in.
All right, let's take this call. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Sele.
All right, please
Good
go
morning,
ahead.
Rachel. How are you doing over there?
We're fine.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
How are you?
Good
Fine.
morning. We're fine.
I just want to talk about the pensioner. The problem we're having in Nigeria is corruption. Corruption has finished us in this nation. Corruption has eaten us finished. Corruption is part and parcel of our system. What caused these people to have a database of the retiree? What caused them? And I want to tell you, we have the database, but because of that corruption, because of the money every one of them is eating, why must they be eating from people who have worked for 35 years? 35 years in service. This corruption has really destroyed us. Our leaders are corrupted. The middle people are corrupted. We that we are talking also, we are corrupted. Africa, we are corrupted. God will help us in Jesus' name.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that contribution.
Yes.
It's quite sad, Rachel,
is
when
sad.
you hear people saying this.
Yeah.
You know, someone once said there's a difference between finish and complete. When you say I am finished, that means maybe there is a way out. But you say I am completely finished, that means it's out of control. So I don't know what our situation is in Nigeria, whether we are finished or we are completely finished. But I believe we are just finished because there is a way out. There's definitely a way out of this. If only we are willing to go back and see where did we get it wrong. Because we're talking about corruption. Rachel, believe you me, corruption starts from the little place you have. You don't just become corrupt when you get up there.
Yes.
It starts somewhere.
Somewhere,
So I
yeah.
believe that this calls for everybody. Just like we're talking about the directors and all of the people. It's not just one time. You started from a rank and then you rose to that place. So we hope that we'll take all the necessary correction and do the right thing that is needed.
Of course, I mean, we can't overemphasize on corruption because it's always a key factor playing in everything. We look at oil, we see corruption. We look at our solid minerals, we see corruption. We look at what is going on in the pension and schemes, we see corruption.
Corruption as well.
We see what is going on in agriculture, we see corruption. In every little thing happening in Nigeria, there's just that trace of corruption, and it's not tiny, Sele, it's very big. Anything functioning in this country without corruption, I mean, we're yet to see it yet, but corruption have eaten really deep, and until we have a system willing to fight corruption, I feel we will still remain where we are. We might make progress, but we'll be moving slower than a snail until we're ready to do the needful, regardless of the sacrifice that is involved in it. But I'm sure we will get there one day soon.
We will,
hopefully,
Rachel, we
Sele.
will.
Still on New Telegraph newspaper, we have Abbas to Tinubu appoint Auditor General, office too important to be abandoned. INEC records 6,154 ad hoc staff shortfall in Imo Guba. PDP kicks as police DSS deny members access to party secretariat. Minister laments inability of 11 states to set up statistics bureau. You can find details on page 5. And in Nasarawa, Sule Appeals Tribunal judgment lists 27 grounds.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Talking about the retired pensioners, how they suffer in Nigeria. The only thing I see in Nigeria is that the leaders, they only know about themselves because they did not look out. If you watch their work, as they work, there are so many people that they are there that they are not working. So at the end of the day, they need to look at their own side and look at on the other side, the people that they are not working. But for them to move the country forward, they have to look at those people. Because every day by day, it is not sickness that makes people to sick. It is poverty and frustration. And whatever I see today, they say it's death. Because somebody will work for 35 years. and you that you are up there, you people, them too should remember that one day that work that them too they are doing, they will retire one day and sit down at the same thing that those people are sitting. So now, for the country to become good, them too that they are leading the country will be good to the society and to the people that they are leading. So I don't have too much to say because I am angry at the leaders. I am angry at so many people because they are top leaders. There are people that are also follow the leaders. Before every money gets to the pensioners, they have already shared it among themselves. Oh, so I don't see anything. So please, that is where let me drop my call here.
Thank you very much for that
It's
contribution.
quite a sad situation, but we hope we'll get it better soon.
Still on New Telegraph, we have a Papa Araban B imposters no longer our members. This is coming from Labour Party. Ijaw National Congress accuses federal government of lopsided appointments. In Osun, 3 pensioners collapsed during staff audit. Power generation cost made up 49% of end-user tariff in 2022. This is coming from NERC. We have IBEDC laments 67 billion naira debt in Ogun as workers shut down KEDCO. You can find details on page 8, 26, and 29. And on fuel scarcity,
All
we
right,
have
take
a
this
call.
call. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Good
Hello, good
morning,
morning.
sir. We are with you
Hello.
on to Echo Television. Go ahead, please.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah. This is Benedict calling from a pipe.
Please go ahead.
I want to ask a question.
All right.
We have a ex-governor, we have an ex-president, we have an ex-senator. Are they belong to retaliation? Or is it how we always have this problem for those people that are working for government, like doctors, like teachers, like policemen? Is that only one that have the right to complain, that is complain about these pensioners? Because there is no one day in my lifetime that I hear about ex-governor, ex-president, senators, and they complain about reservists and these pensioners. I want to know, where are they belong to? Those set of people that are counting, senator, reps, governor, president. I want to know the way they belongs to. Because no single one day I hear about complaint that you don't pay ex-president, you don't pay the ex-governor, we don't pay the ex-senators, and apart from teachers, doctors, and so on and so forth. Thank you. That's what I want to know.
Thank you very much.
Richard, I don't know if you would love
I mean,
to.
Sele, this is a very valid question, and it just keeps revealing the loophole in our system that certain problem is just for certain people, and it's not supposed to be like that. Because yes, the ex-president, the governors, the senators are retirees also, because they're no longer in active service and they're pensionable. We see the back and forth concerning them collecting pension, yes, left, right, center. And then you wonder, is it only the civil servant, teachers, doctors, those that have given and dedicated their life to selfless services that have to go through this? Why are we not hearing them coming out to complain and say, okay, I'm also having my pension not coming to me? Then it tells you, it just reveals more about our
Let's take this
system.
call, Richard. Hello, good morning.
I appreciate I'm on board. Honestly speaking, I don't know. Morning, my sister, Sele and Rachel. Good morning.
Good morning,
Shema
sir.
from Kaduna. It will interest you know that Nigeria is rated the second highest prayer country in the whole world. Nigeria, the most prayerful country in the whole country world. Second is Nigeria. And we are the most corrupt again. What an irony. I don't know where we are going to. Can you imagine aged people suffering, dying at a screening ground? And people are seated in office, haven't forgotten that someday they will find themselves like that. Instead for us to treat these senior citizens with decorum and respect, but they will handle them as if they are not human beings, God will surely arrest Nigerians to behave well, because corruption has sunk very deep in our bone marrow that I don't even know when it will be eradicated for us to have peace in this nation. Good morning, my sisters. I'm hot, honestly.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes,
And I mean, yes, the back and forth can go on concerning that, and then it is needed for us to do something about it. That's why we're here. We'll keep rendering our voice, and we hope that one day Nigerians will be heard, because we can ask all the questions. We know the answers. We know the problem, and it kills. The fingers just keep going back to our leaders. Are they ready to correct the system? Are they ready to sit down and fix and restructure? If it means to turn things completely the other way around, are they ready to do that? Do we have selfless leaders that are willing to do the needful, regardless of if it means they wouldn't benefit from this system? Exactly. Do we have that? Until we see that from our leaders, then we would think we are making progress. But as long as we are not having those kind of leaders, I feel we're going to be where we are for a very long while.
Richard, if you ask me personally, I don't know if I might sound biased or sentimental about this whole thing. Maybe we need to have a bill that will set an age limit for also people who are serving in power. Maybe then we'll begin to see if things will change. Because if you take a look at these pensioners, people who are there, just like we said, these are people who serve Nigeria. And they are not even asking for a charity coming from the government. This is the money that was being deducted from their pay for them to be able to use when they are old and retired. So they don't have to go through the stress. Why don't we take a leaf from other countries that are developed and we see how they treat senior citizens? We're having countries where if a senior citizen don't have to pay transport fare, whatever bus shuttle it is, they go free. Why? Because they're trying to make life bearable for them. So why is our own case different here in Nigeria? We saw the back and forth, just like you said, from Sarah saying that we need to know how much is ex-governors. We have people who have been one time ex-governor, ex-senator, you're presently a minister right now. So how much pay will you be collecting? Here are people who are pushing for just 35,000 naira, 30,000 naira in local government areas. In fact, we even have those who are sweeping the street. How much are they being paid? 10,000 naira. That will not even be enough for you to do anything. A week is not enough for you to feed your family. So we just, and I believe, Richard, that this change starts from the church, because whether we like it or not, we cannot say we need things to change where in the church we've not done our own part. So I believe that in as much as we are calling on our leaders, we are also calling on the church to do something, because we have leaders in those capacities that can actually do something, regardless of your religion. You have the power to change certain things, and we hope that they will do just the right thing.
Still on New Telegraph concerning fuel scarcity, NNPCL stock insufficient coming from Ipman, says bad roads, high diesel costs, also liable oil price fall over anticipated US-Venezuela sanctions deal, sees $9.8 million ex-NNPC GMD Andrew Yakubu knows fate. Now, you can find more details on page 2, 3, and 8. And at the downside of the paper, we have scientists discover drug which shrinks tumors in prostate cancer patients. You can find details on page 26, and this is a welcome discovery that I think everybody should want to know more about it. And that's all the news on New Telegraph newspaper.
All right, let's round it up with the Nature News, where we're having Taraba embarks on sensitization and awareness campaign on Jalingo resident on climate change. Akwa Ibom community threaten legal action against Chinese firm over illegal mining. Detail can be found on page 3. Also, we are having Fitiri tax traditional rulers on climate mitigation as Adamawa AC Russell deepens awareness. You can find detail on page 3. Also, we see that time for Nigeria in order to improve climate investment coming from Wale Edu. And on nature care, we have prevent kidney stone with these superfoods. You can find what those superfoods are on page 15. And on sport, I have 2 estates. Oshime reveals retirement plan. You can find more of that story on page 21. We have other stories on the front page of the paper. You can do a grab the Nature News or any other paper to read stories that are of interest to you. And that's how far we can go on the program this morning. Thank you so much, Rachel, for doing this. And thank you to all our callers who call on the program today. We hope that together we can make Nigeria great again and change the narrative of whatever we think is not working well. Until we come here again, do have a blessed day ahead.